My name is Harper Quinn, and 3 years ago my mom traded me for a better life. The night it happened, her voice was colder than the tile beneath my bare feet when she said, "You're 18 now. No money. No job. And that's on you." She dropped a trash bag at my feet, my clothes spilling out like a confession she'd been waiting to make. I remember the sound it made when it hit the floor, soft, final, and louder than any scream I could have given her. She shoved my backpack into my hands and opened the door before I could speak. "You wanted to be grown? Be grown," she said, locking it behind me. I stood in that hallway, staring at the door, knowing she wouldn't look back. Every instinct told me to beg. But the picture of her smirking satisfaction burned hotter than my fear. I picked up the bag and walked down the stairs before the tears could catch up to me. Outside, the air tasted like metal and dust. I sat at the bus stop with $20 in my wallet and the weight of a childhood that had just ended. My phone screen glowed with her name one tap away, but I turned it off. Calling her would have meant crawling back into the same lie. I whispered instead, "If you want me to survive alone, fine. I will." 3 years later, that same phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Every message started with the same 2 words, "I'm sorry." I watched them pile up and thought, this is what silence sounds like when it finally echoes back. Then I looked into the camera and said, "You'll understand why silence is sometimes louder than revenge." And 12. By sunrise, the air felt heavier than my backpack. I washed my face in a gas station sink, avoiding the mirror like it might confirm what I already knew, that I was officially no one's responsibility. The clerk asked if I was okay, and I said, "Just tired." Though what I meant was lost. I spent 5 of my $20 on a sandwich and coffee that tasted like burnt hope and promised myself I wouldn't cry in public. All day I dragged my trash bag from one storefront to another, asking if they were hiring. "Not right now," they'd say. "Apply online." And I'd nod like that meant something. By noon, the heat blurred the pavement, and every reflection I passed looked like someone disappearing. When I stumbled into a church basement for free lunch, I only wanted food, not saving. That's where Rachel found me, clipboard. Kind eyes. No judgment. "What's your name?" she asked. And when I hesitated, she smiled. "You don't have to be brave for me." I told her the truth. I don't have anywhere to go. She didn't gasp or pity me. She just said, "Then let's fix that." She walked me through forms for a youth shelter and handed me a key to a shared room with a real mattress. "You're not broken, Harper," she said. "You're just starting earlier than most." Her words stayed with me that night when I lay awake listening to the hum of other people breathing, realizing how quiet safety could sound. A week later, I got hired at a small coffee shop downtown. The pay was minimum wage. But the first time my name appeared on a paycheck, I whispered, "Proof." My feet hurt. My hands smelled like espresso. But I felt real again. When I told Rachel, she laughed softly. "See? You're already building something." I started filming myself cooking cheap dinners on my phone, calling it Frugal Heart as a joke. Mason, a classmate from community college, saw one and said, "You turn canned beans into content? That's genius." I shrugged, pretending not to care. But the truth was, the first comment from a stranger, "Thanks." This helped me, made me feel less invisible than any paycheck ever had. It started one slow afternoon when I opened my old social account for the first time in years. A tagged photo appeared, and at first I almost scrolled past it, until I saw my mother's smile in the corner of the frame. She stood beside a man in a button-down shirt and a teenage girl in a sequined dress. The caption reading, "Dinner with the Porters love this little family." My stomach tightened as I whispered, She replaced me like a piece of old furniture. I clicked through the profiles. Each post another punch. Lydia Quinn, once the woman who threw me out with a trash bag, now looked like a suburban success story. Under a photo of the girl Kaylee Porter. 17, my mother had written, "So proud of my girl. She turned my life around." The words stung worse than the memory of that locked door. "She's proud," I muttered, "of someone who isn't even hers." Concept full. Curiosity burned through the shock until I searched my old bank account. The one tied to the job I'd had before she kicked me out. I scrolled back to my 18th birthday and saw it one withdrawal. The exact amount I'd saved for college. Done in person. I remembered her saying, "Do you not trust your own mother?" When she borrowed my card that week, my voice cracked in the empty room as I said, "You didn't just throw me out. You robbed me first." I will. That night I showed Mason the screenshot. He stared at the numbers and said, "You could take this to the police." I shook my head. "She'd just spin it. She always does." He leaned back, eyes sharp. "Then don't let her rewrite the story again. Write yours louder." His words landed like a challenge I couldn't ignore. I spent hours scrolling through her life fundraisers, vacations, matching outfits. Every caption was another layer of fiction. A woman selling herself as the mother of the year while pretending I never existed. My hands trembled, but something inside me steadied. I realized she hadn't made a mistake in anger. She had made a choice. I closed the screen, whispered, "Fine. So will I." And for the first time since that bus stop, I felt the edge of purpose cut through the ache. I threw myself into work like it could drown the noise. Each morning I filmed before my coffee shift, stacking cereal boxes to balance my phone and saying, 3 meals under $5 because survival shouldn't taste like defeat. Rachel watched one of my clips and smiled. "Your story feeds more people than your recipes," she said. And for the first time, I believed her. Mason showed up one evening while I was editing. "You're onto something," he said. Scrolling through my comments. "People love that it's real. You're not pretending life's easy." I laughed, half tired. "It's not a brand, Mason. It's therapy with a grocery receipt." He grinned. "Then you just reinvented self-care." 18. When the grocery chain emailed about a small sponsorship, I sat on the floor staring at the screen. "They're paying me to shop cheap," I whispered, still in disbelief. Rachel clapped when I told her, "You're turning survival into skill," she said. The money wasn't much, but it was mine. Every receipt became proof that I could build something out of what was meant to break me. Weeks later, I moved into a small studio apartment. The paint cracked, the lock stiff. But it was my key. Mason carried the last box inside and said, "Not bad for a girl who filmed on a cereal box." I looked around the empty space and smiled. Not bad at all. That night, sitting on the floor with takeout noodles, I realized I didn't owe anyone proof anymore. As Frugal Heart grew, I filmed with better light and steadier hands. Viewers sent messages like, "Your video kept my family fed this week." Each one reminded me that purpose doesn't always arrive dressed as success. Then one morning, scrolling through my feed, I saw her again, Lydia, smiling beside Elliot Porter at a charity gala. The caption calling her, "A woman who overcame hardship to build a perfect family." I stared at the screen until Mason said quietly, "She's still rewriting it." I answered. "Then it's time I tell my version louder." My voice didn't shake when I said it. It wasn't anger anymore, it was clarity. The kind that comes when you finally know the difference between pain and purpose. The idea lived in my head for weeks before I said it out loud. One night, while I was editing, Mason leaned on the counter and asked, "You're quieter lately." "What's going on in there?" I told him. "I'm thinking about telling the truth about everything." He hesitated, then said, "You sure you're ready for that storm?" And I answered, "She started it. I'm just turning the volume back up." Oh. I opened my editing app, typed the title, "My Mom Kicked Me Out at 18 with No Money," and stared at it until my pulse steadied. When I finally hit record, the camera light blinked like a heartbeat. "My name is Harper Quinn," I said, "and this is what happens when survival turns into proof." I told them how she'd said, "You're 18, and that's on you," and how I walked into the night with $20 in a trash bag. I spoke about washing my face in gas station sinks, about Rachel at the shelter saying, "You're not broken. You're just starting earlier." My voice didn't shake when I said, "She didn't just throw me out. She stole what I'd saved for college." Every sentence felt like setting down a weight I'd carried for years. Before ending, I looked straight into the lens and said, "If you think you know who she is, don't go looking. This isn't about hate. It's about truth." "I know." Mason watched me upload it. 12 minutes, he said. "You just dropped a bomb." I shrugged. "No, just a timeline." For a few hours, nothing happened. I washed dishes, ignored my phone, told myself I'd delete it if it felt wrong. Then, near midnight, the screen lit up. Notifications flooding faster than I could read. Thousands of comments poured in. People wrote, "This happened to me," or "Thank you for saying it out loud." Others argued, "You shouldn't expose family." The mix was chaos and confession all at once. I read until the words blurred, realizing the story had already left my hands, somewhere between sympathy and outrage. The truth found its own momentum. The next morning, an email arrived from Elliot Porter. It was brief. "I saw your video. Parts of it sound familiar. Was your mother's first name Lydia?" I stared at the line for a full minute, then typed back, "Yes," and closed the laptop before I could second-guess it. That one word felt like the door I'd never been allowed to shut. By the end of the week, the internet had done what it always does, connected dots I never named. Whispers spread through community forums. Co-workers. Neighbors. Someone said, "I used to work with her. She told everyone her daughter ran away." Another mentioned credit card disputes tied to Kaylee's name. I didn't answer. Didn't fuel the fire. I just watched it burn clean through the lies she built. When Mason came by, he asked softly, "You think she's seen it yet?" I said, "If she hasn't, she will. The internet finds everyone eventually." He exhaled. "And when she does?" I looked at the screen, the paused frame of my own face mid-sentence, and said, "Then she'll finally have to listen." It wasn't revenge anymore, it was record-keeping. And the record was mine. The first text came while I was filming a new recipe. "I'm sorry," it said. Then another followed. "Please answer. I need to explain." I froze, the phone buzzing against the counter until the words blurred. When I finally read them all, the last one said, "They're saying horrible things about me. About us. Please help me fix this." Day. Hours later, her name lit my screen again. "Elliot threw me out after seeing your video. They think I knew what Kaylee was doing. I'm losing my job. Harper, please. I need you." I stared at the messages until Mason asked, "You okay?" And I said, "She's still trying to make me her cleanup crew." He said quietly, "Then don't pick up the broom." When she finally called, her voice cracked through the speaker. "You ruined me," she cried. "I didn't ruin you," I said. "I just stopped protecting the version of you that never existed," she whispered. I was scared. "You left me no choice." My throat tightened. But I still said, "You had a choice." "Mom," You just picked money. Gotta lot it. She started sobbing, begging for another chance. I should never have kicked you out. I was desperate. I made mistakes. I kept my voice flat. You didn't make mistakes. You made decisions. And you made them without me. For a moment, I heard nothing but her breathing. The sound of someone realizing the mirror cracked too wide to repair. Rachel called the next day and said, she lost her job. The hotel doesn't want her near guests. People are finally seeing through her. I listened, then asked, do you think I went too far? Rachel sighed. You told the truth. That's not too far. That's the line she crossed first. I thanked her and hung up, feeling the silence settle like dust after a storm. That night, Mason stopped by with coffee and sat beside me. You could still call her, he said. You don't have to forgive. Just close the loop. I looked at my phone on the table. Screen dark. No, I said. The apology I needed isn't hers, it's mine. He nodded once. Understanding without words. For the first time in years, I felt no urge to explain. No need to prove anything to anyone. The noise that had followed me since 18 finally went quiet. And the quiet didn't scare me anymore. It sounded like peace. Weeks later, I met Rachel at the community center where we'd started a small fund for teens aging out of foster care. She smiled and said, you turned what broke you into something that feeds people. I told her, it's not about food anymore. It's about not letting anyone believe they're disposable. She nodded, proud in that quiet way that makes you believe you're enough. Frugal Heart had grown beyond recipes. Now I filmed lessons on saving money, finding housing, and building a life from nothing. Mason joked, you're the CEO of survival. I laughed. No, just someone who knows what hungry feels like. At night, when I looked at the studio lights and heard the soft hum of recording equipment, I realized I was finally home in a place I built myself. Sometimes I still think of Lydia. I picture her scrolling through her phone, seeing my face online, realizing ignoring me didn't erase me. Mason asked once, do you ever want to answer her? And I said, no. It's not about punishing her. It's about protecting me. The silence between us wasn't empty anymore, it was earned. When viewers asked what kept me going, I told them, my mom once said if I wanted to survive alone, I should do it. So I did. I filmed one last shot of myself at the counter, light pouring through the window, and said, today's recipe is forgiveness with a side of boundaries. Mason's laugh came from off camera, and I smiled for real this time. The noise was gone. The story finished. And for the first time, peace didn't feel like an absence, it felt like winning. Thank you for staying until the end of my story. If you've ever been told you're too much, too broken, or too late to start over, I hope this reminds you that survival is already success. Subscribe for more stories of strength, truth, and quiet victories. Your comeback starts here.